Welcome to another broadcast of The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. We welcome your questions and comments to dj@artistfirst.com. And now here they are, your hosts, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
Thank you very much, Z-Man. I guess it's my turn. And tonight, yes, you are listening to The Soul of Everyman, and I'm one of your hosts, Michael Lyons.
And I'm Margaret. She's
the really cool host. And tonight we're going to have an interesting topic. Not too long ago, actually I should say quite some time ago, but not too long ago, we saw a rerun of a sort of a very famous series called The Power of Myth by Joseph Campbell. And it probably has been, I don't know, a decade or more since we last saw it. And if for those of you who don't know, Joe Campbell was... I guess it's really at his base a philosopher, and certainly somebody who spent his life in scholastic pursuit of basically to understand the human condition through myth and through the way we relate to the spiritual through our myths.
Mm-hmm.
And he's famous. He's very famous for sort of quantifying what he called the hero's journey. And so that's our topic tonight is going to be about the hero's journey from the point of view of, this is the soul of the everyman. So this is going to be the journey of the everyman, because all of us are on our hero's journey, our life, from the point that we're born and we're kind of thrust into this new world of experience from the world of spirit that we came from, and then how we journey through it, and how we change, how we are changed, how our relationships broaden and deepen and change, and how that arc, which we all go through, and so it's very common, birth to death, and all the things that happen in between, is still, no matter what, no matter how many billions of times it's been done, it's still unique.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely unique. But it's interesting because he himself had been born in early 1900s, I think, right? 1904.
Yeah, right around the turn of the last century.
Mm-hmm. And that mindset was the interesting thing, because it was very... There were many demands put on a person then. The society, the culture was much clearer in what it expected out of its people and their behaviors. And he himself, he said he was taken by the American Indian mythology, excuse me, as well as some of the Middle Eastern, but it was mostly the American Indian mythology, as well as, actually, now that I think of it, medieval, that took him, that transported him along. And which is always quite interesting, because it's, especially the medieval, the knights of the Round Table in King Arthur's court, there was a code of behavior there,
mm-hmm.
that you had to adhere to if you were one of the knights. But the stories are about human situations that come into that, and how a person is dealing with that. What decisions did they make? Always interesting when you hear of those stories. American Indian, on the other hand, was the identification and the realization of the animal energies and the natural elements around you, and their interaction with you as a natural human.
Mm-hmm.
In those situations that arise, it just, that contrast, I think, is what intrigued him the most.
Yeah, you could say that a lot of medieval myths are about interpersonal relationships, like you say, chivalry, honor, how adhering to a code might cost you something. You might have to put yourself below the actual demands of that code. Subsume your own human nature to the higher nature. And then American Indian, a lot of native peoples' myths, like I would say also Polynesian myths and myths from the Maori and myths from many, many different peoples throughout the world are about origins and creations and relationship of man to nature and nature to man, and sort of defining how the spirit world interacts with the physical world and the boundaries thereof. A lot of Carlos Castaneda is another. These aren't necessarily myths, but they are spirit journeys, and those spirit journeys that he chronicled with Don Juan are classic mythological journeys, because they go from what we would call the world of the everyday, and then you would pass through that crack between, he called it the crack between the day and the night, the twilight, pass through the twilight into the spirit world, and then you would have an experience there that was supernatural, not necessarily like, ooh, ghosts, but no, beyond the natural, and you would be changed, or you would learn something, you'd get some sort of knowledge, and you would come back. And that is that Campbell kind of quantified that and took all those experiences, all those kind of ways of doing things, and came up with this sort of idea of the hero's journey. The hero's journey being sort of that traveling from, let's say, the natural through a unnatural state, whether it's a supernatural state or just a state where you're in a sort of hyper reality or a different reality, a very unknown, or rather little known state of being. And then you return back, and you return back changed. You return back with knowledge that you maybe didn't have before, and you may have lost something, you may have gained something. But that those cycles of sort of everyday, ordinary, I'm just getting my coffee and going to work every day, and all of a sudden there's something that happens that really takes you out of your element, something that's so unusual that you almost find it difficult to relate back to the everyday world. You can't even talk about it to people because they can't relate. That's a hero's journey too.
Well, there's usually a problem, a struggle that's presented, and suddenly the hero finds himself in a completely different world. And the archetype itself, it runs where suddenly the conflict that arises, whether it's from his own actions or he's thrust into it, it has, how do I say this? There's usually a guide of some kind, or a wise elder that advises you for the situation and helps guide you through the situation. And then the hero's got to make the decision.
Always have the choice.
And it's a conscious decision at that point, because the wise old man or woman makes sure that you see what's actually being presented to you in that moment. And they usually point out the things that the hero misses. And then under those conditions, what decision do you make? And it's usually encouragement they also give through it. Advice and encouragement to take the next step. And it's always knowing that this is a journey. It doesn't just stop. This happens to be an event in your journey, but this is not the entire journey. And the most important thing is for you to be able to open up and learn what's being presented to you.
And that's exactly it. These heroic journeys, I think in many ways people think of them as being sort of something that you would see in a book or see on TV, where it really is sort of very obvious. There are elves and wizards and swords. This is obviously a way of creating a heroic journey, but what Campbell and others have said is that all of our lives really are journeys through the unknown. They all in some way can be related back to that sort of encapsulated hero's journey, and that's why these types of popular fiction or myths and the way that myths are used to instruct and to inform us, and as we go through our lives, why they're so appealing, why they've been with us as a people and a human race since the beginnings of time. Those are part of who we are as just beings. We see things that we can't explain, events which are beyond our understanding how they would have occurred, or just the very simple transitions from life to death. Almost some of the most early, most powerful myths are myths about the spiritual, about where we come from the spirit to the physical, and where we go to from the physical to the spirit, and how we get there. What are the steps to get us from birth to death? We need those instruction points. We need those
guide points.
Guide points.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know when we were previously talking to, was it Lou Redman, about the hero's journey, it was very, what would be the word? It was a point that he had brought up, that the young people today do not have a way of making the transition into adulthood. And that was what the myths had done previously.
Mm-hmm.
In modern society, there is so much information coming at you that you really don't have time to assimilate what's going on. And there's so much information. The sheer quantity alone is mind-blowing. So for a person to want to be able to focus in on a story, a myth, a story that resonates with them, that's, I guess, the good point about being born in this age. You have the ability to read about different myths of old and be able to choose the ones that seem to speak truth to you, or do speak truth to you. Because when something is speaking truth, it resonates in your heart, and you just know that that's truth being said or spoken or read. But
go ahead.
No, it's overwhelming, because there's so much information, there's so many stories. You have access to many cultures now, and a lot of lit.
Yeah, I think though I would go back just a little bit. I think you're exactly right when you're talking about Lou Redman and the current the people who are growing up now, the children of this age. And you mentioned back when, let's say, Joseph Campbell was young in the latter part of the early part of the 20th century, through the middle part of the 20th century, our culture still had sort of these signposts, these guideposts, these transition rituals from when you would wear your short pants, or in some cases boys and girls both in what we would call dresses today. You go from your short pants to your long pants. You go from your long pants to get to adulthood. You'd have this idea of a bar mitzvah, or the idea of some sort of a transition ritual. Because as we progress through life, that's one of the other things that myth really did, is it was was instruction. It was pedagogical. It would teach you how to be a woman when you were a woman. It would teach you to be a man when you were a man, and being the transition from one part of society when you're completely dependent to another part of society when you're supposed to be a self-determining adult, to another part of society where you now enter into the procreative phase where you're now having your own children, to the next part of society where you're past the point of having children and you're entering into your middle ages, and then to the point where you are now old, and the wisdom of the old coming back to the young. That those stages which are in every life, each one of them, let's say in the American Indian tradition or in many traditions, had myths or rituals which are just kind of, as Campbell put it, they're myths brought to life. You participate in a ritual. It's basically reenacting the myth, and in doing that, by you I mean writ large, all of us feel we've created a journey step. The recognition of the step is just as important as knowing you're ready to take it, or that you think you should be ready to take it. So that journey, those little heroic journeys, I think we suffer greatly now, and in the last, let's say, 100 years, from having, in this Western culture, having them kind of excised, or at least made very muddy, and not have those sort of clear points of demarcation between when you're a child and when you're an adult, or when you're moving into these different stages of life. And in most cultures throughout the world, they were very well-defined points.
Yes. No, that it's a true transition from a child to an adult, from a young boy to a man. And it's a completely different mindset. What the societies that are more close to the natural patterns, Aboriginal thinking is what I always look at them as. They understood that when a body changes, you must acknowledge it.
Yes.
And the acknowledgement was done by the group.
Yes.
And that's basic to every human being.
Right. And what you're getting is the acceptance of the recognition of your change. You change. We change through puberty from prepubescent to postpubescent people. And there's many physical changes. But almost every culture, I would venture to say every culture, had a ritual associated with those for both boys and girls that allowed the community to say, hey, you're now this. And so you accept that role because it's both given to you and you want it. You're saying, I want the role. And the role is saying, yes, we understand you are that thing now. And so it's that cycle of, I am becoming this, and my peers and my society says, yes, you are this now.
Mm-hmm. And it's a natural thing. The young always look up to their elder sibs or cousins or just a little bit older because it's like, okay, that's where I'm going.
Exactly. I'll be there someday.
Well, I'll be there soon. They're not looking at their parents saying, okay, I'm going to be that. No. They're looking at, okay, this is the next level up.
Next step. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that, as a small child, that is the only thing that resonates with you. You're not planning to be, your parent in 20 years down the road. You're looking at it going, oh, I'm going to be just like my sister or my brother in a matter of, 5 or 6 years. That's my next step.
Exactly.
And that acknowledgement is so basic to our nature, our human nature, that it's not being recognized for what it actually is, which is a need.
And I would venture to say that it's men more than women that suffer from it.
Mm, different. Maybe is it better.
Well, the statement I mean is that not that both aren't being given the rituals, but I believe that boys are more damaged by the not recognition of the society or the lack of recognition from the society. I believe that they're weaker without the external. In other words, when you see men, young men especially, who don't have a father figure, don't have an authority figure, and then they go off and they have to find something else which provides that, because without it they feel lost.
Well, I would say that boys, males in general, are more action-oriented, so it's more obvious when they're hurting about something or there's a lack, and they have to act out something.
More external. Yes, that's probably the best way to put it.
Women have a tendency to be much more internal, and they will internalize this without really voicing it because.
So it manifests more in insecurity.
Mm-hmm. How many women do you know that they worry about whether or not it's good enough?
Exactly. Or they go through one external thing after another, a lipstick, a lift, a tuck, a this, a that, to get to this feeling. The lack is I don't feel good about myself, and because I don't, I have to have something else that's going to make me feel good about myself.
They search for this acknowledgement in a different way than men do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's. I'll take it back then. I would say that the damage is real on both sides, and it's because it's a human need for the completion of the journey and the proper recognition of the completion of the journey. And as we all experience every day, it's those wheels within wheels. So each little cycle is part of the larger cycle. So if you don't do this wheel at 8, you're going to have trouble getting to the next wheel at 16, or the next one at 25, or whatever it is. You can't just jump and expect to be okay.
It takes longer. It just takes longer because the journey is the journey.
True.
Okay, you can't put a time limit on it. Somebody would, they'd list everything with little check boxes to make sure it's all being hit at the right moment, kind of stuff. It's like, no, that's not what the journey is. The journey is not your itinerary, where we're going here, then we're going here, then we're going here. It's just, hurry up and what was it? Hurry up and relax.
Well, I think the point you're making is exactly right. It doesn't need to be so rigid, but yet it can't be without structure. And I think what we lack at this point in this culture is we lack any faith in our sort of societal myths. We don't have them. We don't have these journeys that are recognized.
There's a lot of misunderstanding about cultural tendencies. People don't want to look at how something evolved. They just say, well, that's not good. That's not supposed to be. You're not supposed to have that prejudiced or whatever. And they call it prejudice, or that opinion is prejudice. And you're like, you don't know where I'm coming from. How do you know that it's prejudice? You're taking the words and applying it your way.
Right, and it comes down to certainly you can misapply myth, and you can shove people into things that they're either not ready for, or the roles can be so rigid or so confining that you say that people are not just this thing. People aren't just they aren't just parents. They aren't just. So in broadening ourselves and saying, well, everybody can be anything, we also lose identity. It's like, but I'm nothing. I don't know what I am.
When they opened that door, the Pandora's box, they opened the door and they said, well, I want I'm not choosing a religion for my children because I want them to choose.
Right.
But as the parent, have you shown them what it is to have any kind of faith in something? Because the religion itself is an outward form. It's the relationship and how it manifests in your immediate life. Do you live having faith that things work to the good? Or is everything down the tubes for you? You have no faith, and so it's all minor, everything's minor.
Right. Well, I mean, I think that was the big knock. If you talk about Western society, the big knock was, well, religion is all just rules, and it can certainly be turned into that, and you can see it in.
You can turn that attitude can be applied to anything where humans are organized in.
Exactly.
That's a mindset that people don't want to acknowledge, because they want to hold on to that pattern of thinking that I'm right and everybody else is wrong.
Right, exactly. To ascribe these properties to religion is to make them far too specific. These are human properties of rigidity and control. It's
rigidity of thought as well as rigidity of attitude towards another person.
Yes, and the function of viewing your own life and viewing your life as a hero journey is obviously not just to, like you were saying, hit this point and this point and this point and this point. So now we're checking things off a list. The idea is that you empower yourself through these steps so that you then you have accomplished something. It's not a checkbox. It's a goal. I have this power now. I have the power of self-determination. I have this power now. I have the power.
I choose.
It's the empowerment of choice, the empowerment of accepting the responsibility of transitioning from a state where I am dependent and irresponsible to one where I'm more responsible and less dependent, to one where I am now responsible for the lives of others. And those transition points are points of power, or points of accepting a new level. You sort of talk about leveling. Leveling up is moving from one state to another in your journey. And then there's, interestingly enough, leveling down, if you think about it that way, because you're going to go out from this world. It isn't just power to power to power. It's also power to less power, to weakness, to ultimate dissolution.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've reached the ultimate dissolution of this first half hour.
We have reached the end of this half hour.
So let's go back to the studio, take a break, let you guys take a breath, and think about your hero's journey, and we'll rejoin you on the other side.
Hi, this is Pamela Foland. Check out my new book, Megan the Pet Whisperer, available at Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. Please visit my website, www.pamelafoland.com. You're listening to the ArtistFirst Radio Network.
The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed is the latest book from Michael Lyons, the award-winning author of There is a Reaper. Featuring 13 original stories, this wide-ranging collection has everything. Forbidden love, gods versus demigods, weird invading aliens, sexy seductive artificial intelligence, and unusual passion between the living and the dead. All set amidst fantastic worlds of pain and loss and boundless joy. From the sublime to the macabre to the bittersweet, The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed will leave you breathless with laughter, brimming with tears, trembling with suspense. Available now on Amazon.com, Google Play, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere.
Taking God on Patrol is a first-person account of the world of law enforcement from the perspective of a Christian police officer in the fourth largest city in America. From speeding car chases to the crossing of the thin blue line, author Mark S. Cariner seeks to find God's biblical truth in a behind-the-scenes look at law enforcement. And check out Mark's newest book, The Tactical Heart. Both are available at Amazon.com.
Hi, my name is Christina Garlick, and my new book, Nevada Rain, is now available. It's a sci-fi fantasy story for ages 14 and up. I hope you check it out, and of course enjoy. Also, you're listening to the ArtistFirst radio network that has a station for everyone.
There is a Reaper is the story of 5-year-old Christopher Aaron and his life-changing struggle with leukemia. Winner of both the Indy Bragg Medallion as well as the reader's favorite silver medal for memoir. There is a Reaper has more than 100 Amazon book reviews and a 5-star rating. It has been described as life-changing, spiritual, a must-read. Just released on Audible and iTunes, this memoir is also available in paperback and on Amazon Kindle for only 99 cents. Get your copy of this life-changing memoir today.
Thanks for joining us on The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. All past shows are archived. You can find them at ArtistFirst.com. Now back to your hosts, Margaret and Michael Lyons.
And thank you very much, Z-Man. And yes, we are back for the second half of The Soul of the Everyman. And our topic tonight is the hero's journey.
We have heroically fought our way through the bottom of the hour break. And we have transitioned into a new phase of our journey through the hour.
Okay. We are on the upswing.
We're on
I
the
got it.
on the upswing. Well, even our radio show, Margaret, is a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And every show has that all is lost moment where we have no idea what the heck we're going to say next, and then we power on through. You know, and the thing is that it's very interesting if you Google this, folks. If you're at all interested, Google the hero's journey, and in fact, don't Google it as a text, but Google it as an image, and you're going to find a lot of images. Because Campbell had made a very powerful, evocative image of the hero's journey. It was basically a circle, and he drew a line across about the top third of the circle, and that the hero started at the very top, and he transitioned. It doesn't matter which way you go, but you start transitioning down along the circle, and the line represented the world of the known versus the world of the unknown. And most of the hero's journey, let's say 2/3 or 3/4 of the journey, was in the unknown. And the whole idea was that the hero would go into the unknown, and you mentioned earlier in the first half hour that sometimes it's a willing choice. I choose to go fight this battle, or I'm suddenly dragged into it. You know, I have no choice, but I have to go. And then you spend that journey, you know, sometimes, as you said, finding a guide, sometimes finding all kinds of new things out about yourself and about your relationships and who you thought you were versus who you actually are. And then you come back out changed with new knowledge, with a new way of looking at things. But part of the hero's journey, it is a circle. It's not just going in and then ending up somewhere else. You come back. You come back out, up that other side of that circle, back to the world, back to where you started, but you're not the same. Mm-hmm. And that is the key about all of our lives seen as the hero's journey. because we go through things, whatever they are, and sometimes we go through terrible things in life, and we don't know what's going to be coming at us. We don't know whether we can do it. We find out new things about ourselves and about our relationships, and we come back out of that, whatever it was, changed, and knowing something new about ourselves and something new about the world, and having different eyes because of that journey.
It's being open to the adventure, because many times it is you're being thrust into the unknown. Most people believe that is it's got to be bad then, some sort of nasty situation coming up. Not necessarily. It is just being thrust into the unknown, and a whole new world opens up. And because we as human beings are relative, we need something to make a connection to. This is usually why you have the wise person come in.
Yes.
Because the world that you've entered is completely unfamiliar to you. And you need a direction. The journey is always a direction.
Yes.
So being able to speak to the sage at that point, to take a step on your path, to take the step on your path. But what step to take? What do you choose to take? And how do you choose to take it? Many times the sage is talking to the hero about how.
Right.
How are you taking this step?
Right, because the sage is very, very important. They don't tell you what to do.
No.
But they do tell you two things. They tell you can do it. They kind of affirm you. They say, you have the ability. It's with, the ability to go is within yourself. You have to find it. And they say, this is how you can act to find it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you said this earlier in the last half hour, that there's always a choice. Even if the hero is thrust into his adventure or her adventure, there's a point at which they can turn back, when they can refuse the journey. And the heroic act is to say, even though I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know if I'm doing the right thing, I'm going to choose to try.
Right. It's at a point where you either take hold of your courage or you fall away. And I don't know if you could ever go back. That's an illusion, I think. Even if you decide that you're not going to take a step forward in courage and you fall back in fear, you're still not the same.
No.
And there's no way for you to return to the point that you entered into.
Right. There's no backsies in the hero's journey, nor are there really in life. There are no... The kids today do a lot of game playing, and there's all these massive multiplayer games, all this stuff, and they have this idea, which is like a respawn. Well, or you get a new life. You have multiple lives. And it's a nice idea, but in life, in real heroic life, which we are living, all of us, there aren't any backsies. There are no do-overs. And part of courage of the hero's journey, what makes you a hero in your life, is that you have to have the courage to realize that your decisions mean something, they matter, and you just don't get to do them over. No matter how much you want to redo a decision or an event or how you react, you just don't get. Not only you don't get second chances, sometimes you barely get the first chance.
It's interesting because most people say, oh, well, you could always redo that. And you sit there and you go, think about that statement just for a moment.
Yes.
Just for a moment. You married this person and it didn't work out, and you can redo that. The way that relationship didn't come to any kind of fruition. Doesn't matter who or what the circumstance is. I mean, there's no blame involved here, but it's understanding that sometimes steps that you take are irretrievable.
Right.
And that is a scary thought for most people, because especially in this mindset of, I can respawn. I can I can redo. I can do. And you go, do you understand that you aren't the same person you were even 10 minutes ago? That's a crazy thought now, isn't it? But you are never the same. Can you embrace that? Or are you functioning from a rather rigid self-viewpoint that this is who I am and this is how I work and so if you're going to interact with me, you've got to do it this way because I'm not going to respond any other way. It's like, is that who you really are? Rigid, this rigid face and person? That's not living.
Well, it's fantasy, isn't it? Because
it's a mental construct.
It's a mental construct, and you're not living the hero's journey if you refuse to move. As you mentioned earlier, the hero always must move. You don't even get to pause in your journey. In the hero's journey of life, the stream, the time that you are here is always moving. That ephemeral moment of now is now. It's a drumbeat. It is a lash. You don't get now back ever. And so there are no do-overs, but we as a people kind of have to say to ourselves, well, I'll do that tomorrow. I'll do this, and you kind of try and plan your life. But in fact, the true way to live your life is, if I want to do something, do it now, because now doesn't come again. The old opportunity knocks, and opportunity doesn't knock twice. Life doesn't knock twice.
Yeah, do you choose to live, or do you choose just to stay on the sidelines again and not participate? Because there are levels to your journey on how much you're willing to commit yourself to it.
Right.
Some people just want to dip a toe in, just trying it out. Let me see if this works, and if it doesn't work, I'll do this other thing. And you're sitting there going, well, that's a series of let me try this and let me try that, but is there any part of your life that is all-encompassing? Embrace it, the embrace of your heart to another heart. Is there something in you that allows for that kind of passionate living? Passionate to be alive, passionate to wake up.
And what would Campbell call it?
Oh, his is Ananda. That's he calls that follow your bliss, or the blissful state.
But that's what the passion that you just talked about is sort of the real meaning of Ananda, is to live light to find what you're passionate about and then pursue it. It isn't follow your bliss. It's run after it, tear after it. Now, go get it.
Seize the day. Seize it passionately. Seize the moment that's in front of you.
The person that's in front of you.
Who are you speaking with? Do you understand what it is that's being communicated to you? Are you present in this moment where you're able to see and hear and feel the essence of what the life in front of you is handing to you, portraying, opening up, and trying to let you see, well, this is my perspective on that. Are you willing to do that, or is that too scary?
if informed by your journey and informed by your myths and your power, you're kind of said you should be ready at that point. If you are living the heroic life, the life of seized opportunities, the life of seized moments, the life of now, which is the present moment, then that's the hero, because you'll feel, we all have this ability to feel here. I'm patting my rather ample gut. You feel here, not the head voice, not the, well, I'd like to be a CPA, and then I'd like to have 3 cars. And no, the here, now gut is, I want to be an artist. I want to sail the world. I want to help people in Calcutta. That's my bliss. Go get it. And it's not something that the rest of the world may see or value, but they don't matter, because it's your life and your bliss. And that's Ananda. It's the eternal ticking of time in which each beat of the drum is a new opportunity to seize it and go.
Mm-hmm. You make the decision that you're going to do this or not do this, but it's just, you look at it and you go, I can't not do this.
Right.
I just can't not put this away so that I can be responsible for something else. This is where the flame of my heart, the fire of my existence burns. This is where I belong.
And people get, and that's why you said before that people think of that sort of heroic occurrence as being negative, because sometimes you aren't given, sometimes the flame is burning because you're in the flame. You've been given a task that is life and death. And you know what? That's when now really becomes now. And that's why people associate it with that, because when it's life or death, we know that it's now. But you know what? Even the parts where it's whispering and slow moving are life and death. And now, just a little bit softer. You should do this now. You should take the pottery class. Go to Alaska. Take that journey now. Be the heroic journey, even in the whisper. Yeah, there's a big one that says, you've got stage 4 metastatic cancer. Now I really have to be now. But yeah, that's a big now. But I want to study the violin now. It's a whisper now, but take it, because those heroic journeys, those nows, are just as important.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is, because it's your journey.
Because it's your journey.
Mm-hmm. That is the gift of each soul. Each soul is meant to have its own journey, which is why it's so difficult when someone reaches out and wants to tell you what your journey is and curtail you and say, okay, you have to live within this particular parameter here. You're going to do this and go to this school, study this particular profession, and then afterwards, you're going to find somebody and then get married and then have 2.5 children and
and it all feels so wrong.
Well, a lot of people believe that this is what I've got to do, and most of them are women, okay?
But I think at their gut level, if they really thought about it, that's empty. You can feel that it's wrong as a human being.
It's just scary.
Yes.
Because they feel that as long as I cling to this particular schedule, I'm doing it right.
And safe.
You sit there and you go, that's not what life is. Life isn't safe. You're assured nothing. But the fear overrides you. You want to insist that this is the right way. And if it's not happening, then it's somebody else's fault.
Oh, yes. That's a biggie.
It's like, so you're not taking responsibility for yourself.
But that's exactly it. The hero's journey is scary because it's nobody else's quote-unquote fault than yours.
Right.
Because it's your journey. Even if you fail, oh my gosh, I could fail. that sounds terrible. But even if you fail, it's still a heroic journey. You can, this is going to sound weird, but you can fail in an epic way. You can epically fail, and it's still the hero's journey.
Yes.
As the hero's journey, amazingly enough, has nothing to do with success. It has everything to do with the journey.
Mm-hmm. It means suddenly life is not what you thought it was. Suddenly you are open to the fact that there is a vast, vast reality out there, and it's nothing that I can think of. It's always outside my conceptual box, what I think it should be. When you're living, you realize that, this is just all-encompassing. So, and as a friend of mine used to say, it's just, you're trying to find the magical parts. That's like the magic in the moment. I get you. It's the mystery that life really is. Most people believe that you can understand mystery as long as you keep writing down all these things. And you're like, mystery, the word itself, even if you look it up in the dictionary, does not mean the stuff you know.
Exactly.
Why do you cling to the things that you know when the unknown holds your mystery?
Yes. And you're just, it's funny because you're so absolutely right. People want to live a mystery as though it was a known.
Yes.
And I'm reminded just of that hilarious phrase of Madeline Kahn's Mystery of Life, Last I Found You. But that's the whole point, is that you actually never find mystery. You are awed by it. You are taken by it. You are swimming in it, but you can't find it, because if you find mystery, it's no longer mysterious. Mystery by its very nature is unknowable, and it represents that whole bottom 3/4 of the hero's journey. You dive into the mystery, and you find that there are things in there that you can do and things that you can understand, but the bulk of it, and in fact the bulk of life, that 3/4 of the iceberg of life, is in the mystery.
The unknown. Mystery. It's interesting when you think of it, because you look at your mind, your thinking part, and it wants to reason everything and give you the way you should do things, the way it should be working out. And there's a lot of people out there that only be too willing to tell you the way it should be working. Okay? But when you really encounter life and mystery, you realize it's not speaking to that part of you. Mystery does not speak to the part that's sitting there saying, I got this, I'm going to figure it out, I got this, I know how to do this. That I know part cannot understand the I am part. Mystery is intimately connected to your being, your I am.
And the mystery of being is the why I am. That's what we all ask. Why am I? Why am I here? Why am I me? Why am I you?
And that's what the mind says. That is what the logical thinking part says. But the part that is just smiles.
Exactly.
Because there is no such thing. But you want it so.
Yep.
You want it so desperately that you will render down your experience, your reality, into 2 dimensions that have become a list on a page or a snapshot of something. And that is your experience, this 2-dimensional representation. And you wonder why people become depressed. Because you as a human being are so much more. than this snapshot of this experience that you said you had. No. The experience itself, this of being able to be in that moment, sustains you and is alive for the rest of your life. For it marks the very core of your heart and cannot be erased.
And that's the other part of the effect of the journey on the hero, is that the marking on the core of your heart, or the marking on the being that is you, is real and necessary, important. We say in The Soul of the Everyman that nobody gets off the planet alive. And it might be better to say that no one gets off the planet unscathed.
Unchanged.
Or unchanged. You could say, well, I come in and I was born perfect and I just died perfect after a perfect life and nothing ever happened. Well, that doesn't happen. And in fact, our hero's journey is a journey of change, of scars and marks and influences upon our being that are important and permanent. Even if you talk about multiple lives, they're permanent. People say, I brought my past life with me. I brought this thing to... Yes, because 17 lives ago when you were the Queen of Sheba, you had permanent things happen to your heart and you brought them forward. Even if it's only one life, it's that permanent change, that hero's marks, the scars of life that we honor.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because you get people who are trying not to allow change to happen, where they're having, it's doing the makeup, it's doing, they don't want the body to change.
It's true.
But that is the reminder of who you are as a human being.
And it's a reminder of who we are and where we are in the program, that we're getting the music in our ears. So I think our hero's journey has come to a heroic end.
And I'm Margaret, one of your hosts.
She's the heroine of this story. And I am her
hero.
Assistant. I'm Michael.
This is my hero.
Thank you very much for listening to The Soul of the Everyman.
Thank you for listening.